Last week, we had Vice Presidential candidate J.D. Vance on the program, and we asked about tariffs. Here's what he had to say about that.
Classic examples that economists use to attack, or some economists, I should say, use to attack Donald Trump's economic policies is the tariffs that he imposed on washing machines and other dishwashers. So they show a chart that says, well, look, a few months after this tariff, the price of dishwashers went up a little bit. But if you look over 2 years, actually the price of dishwashers went down. You induced a lot of American factories to invest in American workers and American-made products. And the price of dishwashers has actually lagged behind the price of a lot of other home appliances. So sometimes when you induce investment and capital formation in the United States of America, it does lower prices on American workers.
Joining us right now is Justin Wolfers, University of Michigan professor of public policy and economics. You listened to that explanation by J.D. Vance. Does it make sense to you?
I'm an economics professor, mate, and if that was one of my students, that would be a D-, and that's because we don't fail students anymore. Look, the problem is I want to talk about the case study, because it's a case study that matters not just for the tariff debate, but also speaks to how J.D. Vance is conducting his campaign. There's been very careful studies by economists that showed when you implemented a tariff under Trump on washing machines, that dollar for dollar, every dollar of the tariff went through to higher prices for washing machines. He's there criticising a graph of mine, fair enough. He says, let's extend the sample. Let's make sure that this effect persists. And in fact, it does. 2, 3, 4 years later, you see that higher washing machine prices followed the Trump tariffs. And it's not just washing machines, by the way. A funny aside, you put a tariff on washing machines and all of a sudden those sneaky corporations decide that what they'll do is also raise the price of dryers. So it's an interesting case study also in the very, in different ways in which tariffs can lead to all sorts of distortions American consumers are paying.
Justin, is there any argument to be made about inducing manufacturing in the United States as a function of tariffs? And are there any examples where, in fact, prices, perhaps maybe they don't go down, but they stay the same?
There's the possibility, right? So JD could tell a story. There's the possibility that you get production in the US and then those factories grow up and become productive and join the world economy. But we have case study after case study. This has been tried all around the world, not just in the United States. India and Brazil, for instance, tried to become PC manufacturers. They spent millions, probably billions of dollars subsidizing the industries. And it turns out that if you've got a company that can only be competitive if it's getting a leg up from tariffs, the moment you take those tariffs away, what you discover is you've got yourself an unproductive local company. Look, I also want to go back, which is JD didn't just promise that he'd get something that didn't happen, manufacturing capacity in the US. He's lying to the American public. He's saying, if we implement tariffs, you'll get lower prices. That's absurd. It's crazy. We have no examples of that occurring. Let's have a mature economic debate, one in which we tell the truth and one in which we admit and recognise that there are real trade-offs to all of these issues.
Justin, let me ask you a different question. If I were to ask you as someone who could make policy, if you could, to try to induce more manufacturing into the United States, how would you do it?
Andrew, I'd start by asking, why do you want to do that? Did you know that for many years, the argument has been we want manufacturing jobs in America because manufacturing jobs are high-paying jobs. They're now below the average for the United States. So anyone who says they want to, I understand the romance of manufacturing, but remember, these are now
Justin,
lower-paying
I would
jobs.
go, hold on, though. I'm going to just, there is an argument around supply chains, national security, the idea of being reliant on your own country and not having to rely on even folks that appear to be allies that may ultimately not be. I mean, I think there are some arguments. They may cost more to manufacture here, but there are arguments to do it, no?
Absolutely, but they're not necessarily around manufacturing. You know what? If we don't have washing machines because China wouldn't export them to us, I'm sure we'd find a way of getting by. You know the things we really need for national security? We need the ability to come up with the idea and invent vaccines. We need the ability to lead the world in cryptography. We need, it's not necessarily guys in overalls in factories who are keeping you and I safe. It's also nerds in labs with lab coats who are inventing the next products that are really are the source of our economic growth.
When you think about the tariffs that were put on, one of the things you heard former President Trump say to Vice President Harris, look, this administration, the current administration, kept a lot of these tariffs on. Was that a bad idea?
If they'd asked me, I would have said yes. I don't like the Trump tariffs and I don't like the Biden continuation. But also, there's bad ideas and there's terrible ideas. So sometimes we do use tariffs as part of statecraft. We try to knock around and bully other countries for international relations reasons. And there are really some important international relations issues with respect to China. The problem, of course, is if you have a 10% across-the-board tariff, which is what President Trump is proposing, that's not strategic. That doesn't provide an incentive for our trading partners to, say, fix things like protection of American intellectual property and the right and the like. So, yes, maybe international relations folks can make a case that we ought to use our trade power sometimes for to help us on the world stage, but an across-the-board tariff is blunt. It sends no message, and it gives us no strategic leverage at all.